Why is my PS4 internet not working?
I'm assuming you paid your internet service provider.
Of course I did, which is how I know the PlayStation 4 not being able to connect isn't due to the Sony servers being down.
That doesn't mean the PS4 is connected to it.
I can't see how.
You have a wired internet connection and someone disconnected those wires trying to get some other item reset or problem resolved.
I've tried using a wireless connection.
If you have a wireless connection and can access to the internet, verify no one else is hogging all the bandwidth so it can't connect to the internet.
Or the problem is upping the priority the PS4 has on the router.
Another possible solution is power cycling the router, especially if some transaction or digital handshake timed out.
I might as well power cycle the PS4 because the last update might have timed out.
And make sure no one set up their cell phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot next to the Wi-Fi router the PS4 uses, so you're essentially unable to connect to the internet because of someone else's internet connection.
At least you aren't blaming it on the metal cabinet doors being closed.
I figured that you'd have already checked that and wiring connections or the obvious stuff like the PS4 or its router being off.
I've heard there were setting issues that could cause it.
On the PlayStation 4, go to Settings, Network, set up internet connection, and make sure it is set to Wi-Fi if you are using that instead of LAN or vice versa.
That is common sense.
You also could have lost the internet connection on the PS4 if you changed the network password recently. Go to Custom, Network, enter password or change it if the automatically saved password is now wrong.
I haven't changed the network password, and if someone else did, I have a totally different problem.
Go to Network, Password, IP address settings, select not to use DHCP hostname, and set DNS settings manually.
Then I have to enter the DNS settings manually.
Sony says use all 8s as the primary DNS and 2 8s and 2 4s as the secondary DNS.
I've seen different DNS values.
Sony's site also talks about 208.67.222.222 as primary and 220 as the last two DNS values for the secondary, though check their website to see if they recommend something else since I've seen that.
I have to test the internet connection to see if Sony's site has updated to say some other DNS address should be used.
If you make these changes, you can test it by going to Next, MTU settings which you want to be automatic, select Do Not Use for the proxy server, and then test the internet connection.
And then I'll have fixed half a dozen settings for why it can't connect to the internet.
If you have internet connection problems and error CE 352392, then when you do get a good connection, update the PS4 software. As
soon as I see the Sony update server, I'll try that.
If you get the internet connection errors after the last update like CE 344528, delete the content from the library and then try to re-download the content or do a quick initialization.
And then reboot, because any error like that requires a restart at some point to resolve.